Welcome to today's Explainer. We are looking at a literal milestone in modern science, the quantum internet. For years, this whole idea has just been a theoretical dream, totally confined to the lab. But today, we're diving into a groundbreaking leap made by researchers at Northwestern University. They're actually taking the future of the internet out of the lab and into the real world. So let's just jump right in and see how this tech took a massive step forward.
Here's the big question we're looking at today. Can the super fragile quantum internet actually survive the absolute roar of modern web traffic? Our current internet infrastructure, it's chaotic, it is loud, it's an incredibly crowded torrent of data. Quantum information, though, is notoriously delicate. So the core conflict we're exploring is whether we can force something that sensitive into the roaring traffic of our everyday fiber optic cables without it just getting completely destroyed.
Now, to really grasp what's at stake here, we gotta quickly touch on the physics. In regular networks, we send information as bits, zeros and ones, physically traveling down a wire. Quantum networks, on the other hand, rely on quantum entanglement. This is a property where two particles are so deeply linked that their states are inseparable, regardless of the distance between them. It basically allows for information exchange, kind of like teleportation, without the info ever physically traveling across that space. It's ultra-fast, it's incredibly secure, but it's also highly sensitive. Literally, the tiniest speck of optical noise can usually completely overwhelm that delicate connection.
Section 1. The Quantum Internet Dilemma. Brute force versus fragile physics.
So, for a really long time, scientists actually thought this extreme fragility meant we'd have to build an entirely separate trillion-dollar infrastructure just for quantum communication. To see why, just look at the massive difference in scale here. On the classical side, when you send an email or stream a movie, conventional signals use millions of particles of light just to transmit those zeros and ones. It's pure brute force. But on the quantum side, quantum information relies on single, individual photons. It's a delicate, whispering photon going up against millions of blaring particles of light, all inside the exact same glass tube.
Moving on to Section 2. An ant among elephants. The perfect metaphor for quantum traffic.
Prem Kumar, he's a professor of electrical and computer engineering at Northwestern, and the senior author of this study, gave us this incredible way to visualize this massive mismatch. I absolutely love this quote. He said, "Quantum signals are very, very tiny compared to classical signals. It's like an ant traveling through a path filled with elephants." I mean, imagine that for a second. An ant trying to cross an elephant stampede without getting completely crushed. That is literally a microscopic David versus Goliath scenario happening right inside a fiber optic cable. But as Kumar notes here, the results actually prove the ant could survive the journey and remain entangled.
Section 3. The 15-mile Chicago journey. Putting the theory to the real-world test.
Okay, so to prove this wasn't just some fancy lab trick, a team led by graduate student Gina Talcott set up a real-world experiment. They sent one half of an entangled photon pair from Northwestern's Evanston campus all the way to downtown Chicago. That's a 15.2-mile journey through installed real-world fiber. And here is the kicker. They didn't send it through an empty, dark fiber. They sent it alongside conventional commercial traffic, carrying a staggering 36 terabits of classical data per second. Let's just put that massive 36 terabit number into perspective for a second. That amount of data, it's roughly equivalent to 20 million YouTube videos streaming simultaneously through one single fiber. 20 million. Those are our elephants. And right alongside those 20 million roaring videos, the researchers released their single, delicate, entangled quantum photon. Section 4. Building a quieter lane. Let's see how the ants survived the stampede. So you're probably wondering, how on earth did the researchers protect this one delicate photon from being completely obliterated by the roar of 20 million YouTube videos? Well, the answer lies in how they managed the actual traffic lanes of light. See, they figured out a way to keep the quantum photons clear of the busy traffic. The C-band, that's the portion of the optical spectrum where normal commercial traffic operates, it is loud and it is crowded. Their totally ingenious solution was to shift the quantum photons into a quieter portion of the spectrum called the O-band. They essentially put all those elephants into one lane and gave our tiny ant its own dedicated, much quieter lane within that same exact cable. But, just shifting lanes wasn't quite enough to protect it. They used three main survival tactics. First, like we just said, shifting the photons to the O-band. Second, they added these highly specialized filters to forcefully reduce the optical noise that was bleeding over from the regular internet traffic. And third, and honestly, this part is wildly impressive, Because the two nodes were physically miles apart in Evanston and Chicago, they had to find matching pairs of entangled photons in real time. To pull that off, they used an optical timing system known as the White Rabbit. This let them synchronize the two locations down to the picosecond, that is trillions of a second. And it was this extreme precision that allowed them to pick out their tiny quantum ant despite all that heavy background traffic.
The results? Absolutely phenomenal. When the photon arrived in Chicago, the researchers measured the entanglement fidelity at over 94%. The ant didn't just survive, it arrived almost entirely unscathed. Preserving entanglement with over 94% fidelity in the middle of a torrent of conventional data? I mean, that is a level of preservation that's completely impossible for a classical communication system to reproduce.
Section 5. The next quantum leap. From entanglement to teleportation.
This massive success gives us a really practical path toward building future quantum networks, and crucially, without having to lay entirely new, unimaginably expensive infrastructure. If we look at the future roadmap, step 1 is distributing entanglement over a real-world distance, and as Kumar pointed out, they have now crossed that major bridge. Achieved! That naturally paves the way for step 2, transferring information via quantum teleportation. Kumar has actually already achieved teleportation in the lab across a 30-kilometer cable. But now that they've proven entanglement can survive real commercial traffic, they are setting their sights on true quantum teleportation across a metropolitan commercial fiber network.
Which leaves us with a truly mind-bending reality. We aren't just talking about abstract lab physics anymore. Think about it. When sci-fi concepts like teleportation are literally running through the cables right beneath our city streets, right alongside our YouTube videos and our emails, how is a functional quantum internet going to fundamentally reshape our world? The future of secure, ultra-fast communication is already quietly running right beneath our feet. I highly encourage you to keep your eyes on this tech. It is moving way faster than we ever imagined. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep asking those big questions.